So this month, October, is World Mental Health Month, and everything going on with the pandemic, as an example, it's really a tough time for a lot of kids.
Yeah, that's why there's no better time for parents to check in with their children than now. And joining us now to discuss this is Dr. Nicole Berkins, a leading child psychologist. So happy to talk to you this morning, because I think sometimes we tend to forget when we're, involved in our own issues, that our kids are also experiencing these things.
Absolutely. So great to be with you this morning. And what an important topic to be talking about, because we know that through the pandemic, kids have been struggling more with all aspects of mental health, everything from stress and anxiety to mood to behavior. And so this is something that we want to have on our radar as parents, especially to be checking in with kids, to be looking at how we can best support them, even as we move out of this pandemic period, which hopefully we are in the process of doing, right?
So the thing is, we talk about checking in with your kids, and I have kids, and I sometimes struggle with what is the right way to check in with them. What are the exact questions I should be asking? What approach do I need to take?
Yeah, it's tricky. And, it really depends on the age of the child, because obviously how we do that with a preschooler or a young elementary child is going to be different than an older high schooler. But really, we just want to keep the line of communication open on a regular basis by letting them know that we want to hear about what's going on for them. So that can be anything from, spending an extra few minutes just putting devices down and having a conversation together and saying, hey, I'd love to hear about something great that happened for you today at school, or, tell me about something that you saw online recently that maybe was surprising or concerning. We can share things that we have seen or are dealing with, and that can open the conversation too, saying, hey, I saw this article about some things that kids are dealing with, and that more kids are really struggling with stress. And it got me thinking, I wonder what you think about that. Is that something that's going on for you? And so these are ways that we can open up the conversation without making it seem like we're sitting down face to face saying, tell me how you're doing, right? Because that tends to not go over real well, especially with older kids. But to just keep those lines of communication open and to be checking in regularly so that kids know that they can come to us with anything, and that we are willing to drop what we're doing and to listen to them and to provide support.
You make a really good point about screen time, because so often I think parents use those screens as babysitters to allow their kids to entertain themselves and I guess give the parents a break. But you also say family time is so important.
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest protective factors when we're talking about kids and mental health. That the more time that they spend plugged in and connected to the family unit, to family communication, to family activities, the better. And that doesn't mean that we have to be entertaining our kids constantly or doing things together all the time, but it does mean looking at that balance. And I think that's something I know as a mom of four myself, that's been tricky during the pandemic, right? Especially with them doing a lot more for school on computers and just socializing more on their devices, because that's what's been available. But we want to really, at this point, start looking at that balance and making sure that the time that they're spending on devices and on screens is in balance with the time that they're spending not only doing things with their family, but doing things in person with friends, doing extracurricular activities, getting physical movement in, helping out around the house. That balance is really what we want to be looking at there. And I actually think that, online stuff can be a great conversation opener in terms of, talking with our kids about things. And there's a lot of dangers, a lot of things that kids can get exposed to online that do absolutely have an impact on their mental health. So as parents, we want to stay aware of what our kids are seeing and doing. It's one of the reasons why I really recommend parental controls, not to micromanage, but to be aware so that we can start those conversations with our kids about, hey, what do you think about this? That's really key to supporting their mental health.
In a perfect world, I would say say I would like to watch whatever it is they're going to watch before them, so I'm aware of what conversations are being. But I can't. And the thing is, these kids are so savvy. My 2-year-old now can like skip the ad, and they just go in there and things look like fun shows. They'll start watching, and all of a sudden, a few times I've been like, wait a minute, wait, what did they just say? This is not appropriate for you. So you really have to be on top of it. And you know, one thing, Dr. Berkins, I think you'll agree with is what I found is during the pandemic, parents were with their kids for so many hours a day, and you confuse that sometimes with, oh, I'm spending time with them. There's a difference with quantity of time and quality of time.
So true. And I think the piece that we want to be focused on is the quality. You know, the reality for a lot of families, even right now, is their attention is split in a lot of directions. And we want to focus on that quality piece. Doesn't mean we have to be constantly doing something with them, but when we are, we want to focus on the quality, putting our devices down, being focused on them for that time that we're spending together. That's really key. And quality is really key when we look at how they're spending their time online too. You're right, we can't always be one step ahead. And actually, we shouldn't. They're going to be exposed to things. And that's where us being aware, using those parental controls like circle, like whatever comes on, you know, the devices, helps us to keep the lines of communication open, because we can't always be one step ahead. It's not realistic. But the quality of what they're doing, you know, online, watching on TV, that's even more important, arguably, than the quantity of time. I think that's key.
You know, Dr. Berkins, what a fantastic conversation and what great information. So glad you could talk to us about it, because I think it's really super important. Thank you for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, take care. I know somewhere I was reading, they're like, just spend 10 minutes with your kid, put your phone down, but give them 10 minutes of undivided attention. That's more important than 3 hours together.
And believe it or not, they actually crave that.
I know. No, it's true. And I have to be mindful of that.